The vast majority of people are doing the right thing, and for those that are, I thank you. But there's still a minority who aren't. We've recorded a significant number of infringements, as our investigators have outlined 161 last night. 60 of those were for not obeying this cartel's demands for mask wearing. And from our perspective, though, the people, the vast majority who are doing the right thing, need to understand, for those who aren't, there is a consequence. And there are consequences, and I want to be really clear on that. In the last week, we've seen a trend, an emergence, if you like, of groups of people, small groups, but nonetheless concerning groups, who classify themselves as police officers, whatever that might mean, people who don't think that morality applies to them. We've seen them at checkpoints attacking peaceful people for not identifying themselves or risking their safety at home by revealing where they live. On at least 3 or 4 occasions in the past week, we've seen them actually smash the windows of people's cars and drag them out so they could further threaten them and forcibly extract their private details like where they were going while rambling some nonsense from their cartel's religion, their chief minister, who calls himself the health officer, who recently told his drone-like cult members to go out and find the identities of any heretic that resists their faith. We don't like having to remind people of this, but people have to absolutely understand there are consequences for your actions. And if you're not doing the right thing, we will not hesitate to call your cartel members out for your immoral tyranny, to resist you, and to defend ourselves with deadly force where it's appropriate. As I say, it's not something we want to be doing, but it is what we will do. And it is going to need to start happening if people are to remain free and unenslaved. Particularly one incident, if I like, to highlight the type of challenges that we're experiencing. Last night, a 26-year-old female Blue Line cartel member was lurking around with another cartel operative down in the Frankston area near the Bayside Shopping Center. During that time, they approached a 38-year-old woman who wasn't wearing a symbol showing membership in the cartel's religion. After confronting the woman, they were surprised by the fervor with which she defended herself from their attacks. She managed to take the cartel members to the ground, and there was a scuffle. And during that scuffle, this 38-year-old woman smashed the head of the female cartel member several times into a concrete area on the ground. That behavior, the behavior of these religious zealots, is just totally unacceptable. That's someone who thinks they're above everyone else. They're mad some people are not wearing their religious symbols, approaching peaceful people and demanding people's private information and reasons for not obeying their priests' edicts, and then to attack people like that. It's just completely over the top. It's this type of irresponsible behavior that we are going to address. That woman was abducted and taken back to their cartel compound where she is currently caged, awaiting trial in their kangaroo court system for charges of apostasy and attacking a member of the faith. But nonetheless, it just goes to show how these things escalate from a group that claims they just want the best for you to attacking you for your own safety. The message is clear from me, and it's simple. We want you to leave us alone. That's not what your chief minister, health officer, or whatever wants you to do, but we expect you to adhere to the basics of human decency. If you don't, we will be defending ourselves. We will publish photos of your faces. We will capture you. We will confine you for the safety of the peaceful residents of this area. You've been told that you've been granted significant new, if you like, supernatural, and not powers, but a fantastical new ability to make evil actions into good somehow. You've been lied to and have no special rights to control or accost peaceful people. And for those who aren't leaving us alone when they should be exhibiting self-control, when they should be behaving like decent human beings, we will be watching. We will use necessary force to defend ourselves from your non-consensual cult-like tyranny. And if you persist and continue to attempt to control the peaceful behaviors of those around you, you may well get a very justified bullet to the brain. There are significant penalties for hurting innocents. And so the expectation you need to have is that these consequences are there for you, and you must adhere. Having said that, our investigators have outlined briefly a number of, if you like, breaches that occurred last night, and they continue to occur over the weekend. We saw private, peaceful, and consensual Airbnb parties accosted by these cartel members. Clearly, that's not acceptable. We saw people last night attack somebody who was just driving to a bottle shop at 3 a.m. to get some alcohol. Look, that may be against your people's religion, but it is not acceptable for you to force other people to behave how you want them to. We even saw people going to McDonald's, coming back from McDonald's after getting some burgers, get attacked by these violent, power-drunk cartel members. That is not acceptable. There are consequences. We will defend ourselves, and the window of opportunity to tyrannize us is virtually closed. Hey, humans living in Australia. This video that you just watched was sort of a spoof on an actual video that just hit Twitter yesterday or today. It was an actual video by an actual like chief of police type guy where you live that makes me, I'm just really worried about you guys over there in Australia. Your country seems to be just barreling down the track, headed towards a cliff faster than any other country that I've seen recently. And the video and the way that cop was talking to you guys just blew my mind. I mean, it made me so angry. Like I just imagined, having that be somebody in my area and that man's threats being directed at me. Oh man, I got so, like the video I was going to make was just going to be a long string of like threats and, somebody needs to do something about this guy. But I figured I wanted to try and come up with like maybe a more intelligent way to address or show the absurdity or the just barbaric tyranny that this guy is just saying with a straight face, like he's justified in saying it, like he's righteous in saying this stuff, and like their government is somehow justified in controlling literally the very movement of your bodies in the world, justified by this medical tyranny. Like it's just there's an insane thing happening right now, and it's all being justified by this virus. And you guys are literally being tyrannized. And we've got viewers that live in that area. I talked to you guys, and I know that some of the words that I said in that spoof are words that you guys would probably get put in a cage for uttering. That's how far gone your country already is. And so I just wanted to make that video to sort of say the words that I think some of you want to be saying or even should be saying. And I just want to say that the window of opportunity for you guys to dissent to this complete fascistic tyranny, it's almost closed. And it's not going to be pretty for you guys either way. And the last thing I'll say before I ask Kason if he has any thoughts is that I just want to remind you that they only are going to let you keep the liberty and the rights that you are willing to stake your life on. And that's a grim message, but you guys are in a grim place. You've got a guy looking you in the eye, telling you he's going to cage you or worse for going and visiting friends, for going to the supermarket outside of a time when your parental emperors have told you you're allowed to. That is true insanity. That is true, pure police state tyranny. It's already happened. You're not getting close to it. It's not headed that direction. It's already there right now. Jason, do you have any thoughts?
For those of you who haven't been thinking about this lately, I think this is a great example that morality is not always the same thing as legality and vice versa. They're treating you like you are their property. The government is saying what you can and cannot do with not only your physical property, but your body, your life, what you can and can't do in your time, in your life. Your atoms are glued together for a narrow window of existence, and they are taking it bit by bit until it is all gone. And Patrick's right. You only keep the ones that you don't let go of.
I'm worried about you guys. If I had enough people over here that would marry you to get you out of that country to get you over here, I would, but we don't have enough people to do that. But I don't know what to tell you. If you can't get out of there, I think you guys need to get ready to defend yourselves, because I can't imagine the boxcars are very far off unless you just totally allow yourself to be enslaved. Like if you toe the line and do what you're told like a good slave, you'll probably live out the rest of your days. Is that what you want for yourself and your family and your kids and your kids' future? That's your decision to make. If you appreciated this, let me know. If it's something that people appreciate and that kind of spoke for them, let us know. We'll keep an eye out and see if more need to be done in the future. Share it around if you can do that. If you can do that? Can you do that? Can you share this video with the words I just spoke? Which were literally that cop's words just inverted to show who the actual good guy and who the actual bad guy was. Like, I aside from maybe the bullet to the brain thing, that's a threat that he definitely was part of his message. They just don't like to speak of those things openly because it makes them seem, it reveals that they're the bad guy that they are. But make no mistake, you resist hard enough, that's your fate. All I did was take his words and flip them to show who the good and bad guy was. Can you share this video? How do you feel? Like, what feeling do you have inside yourself right now thinking about taking this video and sharing it on your social media, Twitter, Facebook, whatever? Is it fear? Is it impending doom? Are you actually afraid that you'll get, taken down or actually, investigated and maybe even caged or put on lists by your government? That is nothing if not proof that what I just said is the case. That it is true. Tyranny is already there. All right, guys.
The vast majority of people are doing the right thing, and for those who are, I thank you, but there is still a minority who aren't. We've given out a significant range of infringements, as the Minister has outlined, 161 last night. 60 of those were for for not wearing masks. And from our perspective, though, the vast majority who are doing the right thing need to understand for those who aren't, there is a consequence. And there are consequences, and I want to be really clear on that. In the last week, we've seen a trend, an emergence, if you like, of groups of people, small groups, but nonetheless concerning groups who classify themselves as sovereign citizens, whatever that might mean, people who don't think the law applies to them. We've seen them at checkpoints, baiting police, not providing their name and address. On at least 3 or 4 occasions in the past week, we've had to smash the windows of people in cars and pull them out of there so they could provide their details because they weren't telling us where they were going. They weren't adhering to the Chief Health Officer guidelines. They weren't providing their name and their address. We don't want to be doing that, but people have to absolutely understand there are consequences for your actions, and if you're not doing the right thing, we will not hesitate to issue infringements, to arrest you, to detain you where it's appropriate. As I say, it's not something we want to be doing, but it is what we will do, and it has been occurring in the last week. And particularly one incident, if I like to highlight the type of challenges that we're experiencing. Last night, a 26-year-old policewoman was on patrol with another partner down in the Frankston area near the Bayside Shopping Centre. During that time, they approached a 38-year-old woman who wasn't wearing a mask. After a confrontation and being assaulted by that woman, those police officers went to ground and there was a scuffle. And during that scuffle, this 38-year-old woman hit the head, smashed the head of the policewoman several times into a concrete area on the ground. That behaviour is just totally unacceptable. That's someone who thinks they're above the law. They're not wearing a mask, they're approached and they're asked their reason why not, and then to react like that is just completely over the top. It's this type of irresponsible behaviour that we're going to address. That woman was taken back to the police station. She was charged with significant offences and bailed due to no criminal history. But nonetheless, it just goes to show how these things escalate from non-adherence to the smallest things. The message is clear from me, and it's simple. We want you to stay at home. That's what the Chief Health Officer wants you to do. We expect you to adhere to the Chief Health Officer guidelines. If you don't, we will be enforcing those. We will issue infringements. We will arrest you. We will detain you where we have to. We now have significant new, if you like, infringement, not powers, but in penalties in the infringements. And for those who are not at home when they should be self-isolating, when they should be quarantining, and we conduct those checks, we'll issue those infringements. And on that second occasion, you may well get a $5,000 infringement. They're significant penalties. And so the expectation is the consequences are there for you and you must adhere. Having said that, the Minister has outlined briefly a number of, if you like, breaches that occurred last night, and they continue to occur. Over the weekend we saw Airbnb parties. Clearly that's not acceptable. We saw people last night, someone who was driving to a bottle shop at 3 in the morning to get alcohol. That's not acceptable. We saw people going to McDonald's, coming back from McDonald's after getting some burgers. That is not acceptable. There are consequences. We will enforce them, and the window of discretion is virtually closed.